My dear fellow forgiven sinners, sharers in the treasures of God's riches. The text that we will be using to base our sermon off today comes from our second reading, 1 Timothy 6, especially focused on our last three verses. I will read it for us now. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way they will lay up treasures for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. The word of our God. It's such a sensitive topic, isn't it? Money. Bringing up the thought of money can cause us a lot of friction, a lot of questions that come up into the air just at the mention of it, whether it's at church or at home or with a group of friends or family. You start to squeal in your seat a little bit. At the very least, it makes you a little bit uncomfortable because what is he going to say about it? Is he going to talk about how to use your money, how myself have used my money? Is he going to show me many different ways where I can use it for my benefit or for my loss? What's he going to say? Well, I want to be very upfront with you all this morning. Money is good. Money is a blessing, a great blessing that has many very good uses to it. But have you ever asked yourself that question, why? Why is the topic of money so sensitive and so controversial, right? It's just a piece of paper, right? Or is it? No, money has meaning behind it. Money has a purpose. And not just any purpose. Money has whatever purpose you want it to have. If you want money to serve the purpose of giving you a brand new 75-inch QLED UHD TV, money will do that. If you want money to have the purpose of buying you a nice car to get you from point A to point B, it will do that. If you want money to keep you warm at night, not to pay the heating bill, but just by burning it, I don't think I'd recommend it, but money will do that. You can get to determine the purpose of money. Is there anything more gratifying to our flesh than that? I personally don't think so. I think that's why so many people, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whatever you think of yourself, leaders of the world gravitate toward money. Money, in a sense, does have a very prominent place in this world. You can't really live too far or too long without it. Nothing in our world can gratify the desires of our flesh better than money, and you get to control it. You tell money what it is to do, when it is to do it, and it has to listen to you even if you own just $1. You get to control and determine what happens with that money. All that control. It leads us to so easily do what Paul warns the people in Ephesus, the people under Timothy's care, to not do. To be arrogant with wealth or to put your hope in wealth. That's why the topic of money is such a controversial thing, because number one, we don't like to be told what you can and cannot do with that which belongs to you. right? Just by the thought of money, somebody telling you what you are supposed to do, say, no, this is mine. I worked for it. I earned this. And I have the right to tell money what to do, and it has to listen to me. If you want your money, you have to work for it just as hard as I did. Or number two, we trust it just a little too much sometimes, don't we? And I need my bank account to be at such and such a place in order for me to feel comfortable and not to feel anxious. I can feel comfortable and I don't have to be stressed if my bank account is at a certain amount, whatever you choose. If it's there, great, I have a little spending money, a little freer in life. If I'm at this point, well, we're still doing okay, but if I'm down here, it's all of a sudden a handcuff and a shackle on what you can and cannot do in life. Whatever is happening in my bank account all of a sudden then dictates whether I'm happy and comfortable or sad and vulnerable. Both of those things, putting arrogance over wealth and putting our hope in wealth, make it a breeding ground for controversy and uncomfortability. It's easy to see why Paul says not to do those things, the way that he warns us about the love of money. Because you don't have to be a Bible-believing, God-fearing Christian to understand that money, it's not worth serving. Paul puts it in very plain terms in the Bible that could very well be spoken by a worldly philosopher. He says, "For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it." Very rarely will you go into a delivery room and come out with all sorts of gifts and a trailer full of presents for the child out of the delivery room, out of the womb. In the same way, I haven't seen a hearse carrying a U-Haul before. Have you? No, what is earned here, what is used here, stays here. But we don't have to wait until the very end of life to realize that. Money, it's so uncertain. I feel good, life is great when it's so high, but then the very next day, even to the best of my ability, I don't want to lose it, and yet we're not in control of it. Stock market plummets. Accidents happen. Greed, desire from other people to try and get my money pulls it away, and where are we left? In the dust. That's the result of serving money, or as our text puts it, wanting to get rich, loving money, eager for money. And the Apostle Paul simply puts before us, if that is your desire, where does it stop? What are you willing to give up for money? And to you, holder of faith, holder of God's riches, it's going to come for your faith too. The devil uses that misplaced desire in money or whatever you want it to be, whatever it is that our heart is so easily drawn to fracture you from the faith in God, the giver of all good things. Paul doesn't just command us not to do these things, he also helps us not to do them. See, there is a better place to put your hope. And Paul says it bluntly, put your hope in God. But here's the real gem. Why? Well, why should you put your hope in God? Maybe let's be honest for a second. You get tired of hearing that pretty quickly. As Christians, we're hear that constantly. Put your hope in God. Put your trust in God. He will take care of you. He will bless you. And just as good Christians are supposed to do, we do it. We put our hope in God. We trust in Him that He will bless us in the way that we want. Yikes. That's when we get a little tired of hearing, put your trust and your hope in God, right? Because when we hear, put your hope in God, the sinful nature inside of us hears, yeah, put your hope in God, and so that he will bless you, and that he will give you money and the desires of your heart so that you can control what you want to control. And of course, that goes two different ways. God doesn't give us what we want. He doesn't give us the money to do whatever we want with. So we get a little bit tired of hearing it, put your hope in God. And all of a sudden, God, this whole plan of using God as an ends or means to an end doesn't work. Or the other way, as Paul puts it, wandering from the faith. It's not a dead sprint away from God. So often it happens really without even our knowing. Those who are thinking where the next paycheck is going to be, how the next step to just get a little bit further in life, to find your contentment in money, turn from the only one who can offer true contentment. Your hope is only as powerful and is only as real as that which you put it in. And in money that so easily comes and so easily goes, we're left wandering. And if you've ever seen a child wander, how quickly he or she can be lost. That these earthly scenarios have spiritual consequences for you and for me. And so Paul says, watch out. Be on your guard against that love, that desire of money and all of these things that offer so much to you here and now. Because this really isn't a talk over money. It's a talk over the heart. It's a heart issue. Hearts that want to find their fulfillment and find their contentment in anything but God. And what does God do? He continues to bless you. God continues to bless you because of the one greatest way he has blessed you, by sending Jesus, who, if you think on anything you know about the Bible, a lesson you've learned, or just last week's sermon, those who are lost are exactly who Jesus goes after. Not telling them how they are to spend their money, but goes after your heart. Create in me a new heart, O God, and a steadfast and even a content spirit to sustain me. Jesus does not give us a new outlook on money and leave it at that. No, he creates in you a new desire, a new heart toward a God who blesses you. And Paul isn't lying when he says God is richly provides us in all things. More than that, God does allow you to have control over your money, but that doesn't mean that God, doesn't care about its purpose. Verse 17 says, put your hope in God, who richly provides us all things for your enjoyment. There it is. Right? God is not working against you. He wants you to use the gifts and the things that he puts into your life as blessings for your enjoyment. But that's not the part we have an issue with, is it? Catch it a little bit further. Paul says, putting your hope in God, who richly provides us all things to do good, to be rich in good deeds, to be generous, sharing freely. Yes, God lets you control your own money, but there is a purpose that he has given the money for you to use. Money is not just for our enjoyment, but the only real way that we expand our appreciation for the gifts God has given to us is by sharing it with others. We know that from practical experience, don't we? You could take a day off to yourself, have a movie all to yourself, popcorn, candy, whatever you like, and you can sit in your room and enjoy it by yourself. And once that twinkle in your eye goes away after the first or maybe second time of doing that, you begin to think how much nicer this would be to share it with others. To share conversation over dinner together, to share a experience at a ball game, to share a round of golf with another. Why should we place all of our hope in God and not in money? Because God has a higher purpose for us than just this earth. It's the person who puts their hope in money has already reached their maximum potential. That is this life. If a person puts their hope all in money, then already he can do no better than live the life that he creates for himself on this earth. A life that will immediately vanish the day that he or she dies. But by grace, by knowing that there is another place to put your hope, not only have you been given every spiritual blessing in Jesus through faith, you also receive a new purpose. For all of the many ways that God has so uniquely and individually blessed you, we can use them to store up for yourselves a good foundation into the future. How amazingly generous our God is. That as Lutherans, we rightly reject salvation by works. That we can't do anything more to further gain any of God's favor or any of the gifts that he has given. But sometimes that makes us shy away from good works. It begins to make us think that the things that we do, the good that we do, could be done with bad intentions, or in this case, that building up treasures for ourselves could somehow mess with my salvation or make it something selfish about me. So let's use let's use a picture to understand this concept a little bit further. Suppose you have been given a mansion. 35,000 square feet, every inch of it designed exactly how you would like it. But you can't live in it until you die. And at the very same time, you've also been given 20 different homes throughout the world, say about 1,500 square feet apiece, and you can live at them at any time. In this picture, right, the mansion represents a home in heaven. And those 20 different homes represent the earthly blessings that you and I have been given. Now, you could take those 20 different homes and make them whatever you please, to fit every desire that you would like them to have, to go from place to place as you see fit. Or you could give those 20 homes to different people to share your wealth by giving them something that means something to them on this earth, with the hope that they would also share in your heavenly mansion, that they were able to build a 35,000 square foot mansion right next to yours in heaven. Which house would you focus on? It's not wrong or sinful to be focused on your eternal home. In fact, that's exactly what our God wants our attention to be focused on. Because of that thankfulness for that eternal home that God has given by faith, by grace alone, you can now make an eternal difference for the people around you. By sharing that which you have been given, that which belongs to God. Why share with other people? To make an eternal difference. Not so that you can act as somebody kind and generous and loving and they can say, wow, what a great person you are. But for them to be able to have the opportunity, by coming into contact with your generosity and your kindness, to share with them the reason that you have such a sure hope in an eternal home, that is Jesus and his word. That's what it looks like to put your hope in God. You're no longer concerned about your purpose for your money. No, it belongs to God. You want to use money for God's purpose. And God's purpose is that all people are saved. They come to a knowledge of the truth, a knowledge of Jesus. You want to freely share it on this earth so that in doing so, all people may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. See, that's what our Not Unto Us campaign is all about, and that's what I hope it continues to be. Not so that we can build another building on this plot of land and for people to say, wow, they must really be doing something good there. But so that we have the opportunity to share with just one more person the hope of eternal life in Jesus. Jesus has so richly blessed us with his eternal home that money should no longer be a controversial, weird, sidestepping topic for us. We don't need to covet the things of this world. We no longer need to serve money. There's no need of storing it up endlessly for ourselves. Rather, dear Christians, share it. Share it for God's purpose, that you may come into contact with just one more soul and share with them the hope that you have in Jesus. Amen.